Hello, this is Storm Warden coming back at you today with another video update. And today we're going to talk about the severe weather episode that will take place from Texas all the way up as far north as Iowa. That will take place tomorrow with a pretty big slight risk located over Oklahoma to Kansas to Arkansas, Missouri, parts of Iowa, and parts of Texas as well. So we're going to talk all about that today. We're going to go through the model guidance, and then towards the end of the video, as I always do, I'll give you my overall thoughts on this. But before we get there, if you've been liking my weather content, please subscribe as I bring daily weather updates Sunday through Friday, and I keep you guys aware and warned of any upcoming systems that want to affect the United States. So we're gonna get right into the short range guidance. But before we get there, I want to show you all the probabilities for each hazard, which this is an all hot hazards event. So tornadoes, hail, wind will all be issues that will be a problem with this setup. So first, looking at our tornado risk, we have a pretty large 2% risk that extends from Texas all the way up as far north as Iowa. But we have an enhanced corridor of tornado potential located from the central part of Oklahoma going into the eastern part of Kansas. And this is the part of, these were the areas that I highlighted yesterday for the strongest storm potential. And it looks like they are also in the potential for the some enhanced tornado potential as well. So we have a 5% and you have a 2% risk. So certainly bears watching. I know to a lot of people that doesn't sound like a really big deal, like a 5% chance of a tornado, but you gotta think though that it's almost like if you were on a plane and you were told there's a 5% chance that this plane may crash. Would you be wary of that? Yeah, you would. So be careful about that. And then you have a pretty large hail risk here as well, 50% risk of hail. This is a pretty large area of enhanced hail potential as well. And then you have a wind potential as well, and this is a pretty big area of stronger wind gusts that could happen. Anywhere within this yellow area, there could be some wind damage, and even in the green areas, there could be some wind damage, but to a lesser extent. Now we're gonna get right into this. So whenever I like to analyze severe weather events or break them down, I like to start with my dew points because it gives me an idea of how much moisture and instability we're dealing with. So we're looking at so we're starting off with our dew points, and this is the NAM model. So the time frame is this morning, obviously. So we're going to start off by just going through the day today. Not much weather going on today, but tomorrow. We're starting off tomorrow morning. Look at this significant moisture return that we're seeing. And all this tells me that we have a pretty significant moisture return, which tells me that one, we're going to have some decent instability to allow storms to really develop and to take advantage of this environment. So we're going through our day. You get dew points all the way in your mid 60s to potentially lower 70s in some spots. So with these higher dew points, this definitely gives a lot of moisture and definitely decent potential for severe weather tomorrow. And so with these mid 60 dew points, this is definitely more than enough for severe weather. But this isn't the only ingredient that you need, but it is one of them. And you have mid 60 dew points in these second severe weather season type setups. And you had these dew points in mid 60s, and you have a stronger low level jet. It doesn't take much to get things popping off, especially when it comes to tornado potential. Now another thing I look at is our low level jet. And here, as you're going through our day, you're going to notice there's going to be an increase in that low level jet, especially as you go into the evening hours. And look at that. You have about a 40 30 knot low level jet located over Oklahoma and Kansas, especially over Kansas, where the stronger low level shears is maximized, it seems like. And anywhere in this corridor, you could have enhanced tornado potential. That's why you have a 5% risk. And this is also where your thermodynamics are a little bit better than those further north, where it's a little bit more linear, more of a wind damage and hail threat further north compared to further south, where you have your wind shear and you have your instability. When you have both of those maximized, you can certainly get tornado potential, and that's why you have an enhanced corridor from Kansas down to Oklahoma compared to areas further north where you just have a 2% tornado risk. But nonetheless, risk of tornadoes is a risk of tornadoes. Now, I showed you the low level jet. Now we drop down and look at our surface based instability. So how much energy do we have for these thunderstorms? How much energy is these storms working with? So we go through our morning. You can already see there's a pretty big stripe of 1,000 joules per kilogram worth of instability located from pretty long stripe located from about as far south as Texas to parts of Iowa. This is a pretty big area of 1,000 K. Now it's very narrow. You can probably see that like it's very narrow. So the warm sector tomorrow, it's going to be somewhat narrow, but you see how it kind of expands, especially going to the afternoon. And you see this area of more enhanced instability, and just this area from central Oklahoma through Kansas with the even more enhanced area in Kansas. This is where that tornado potential is going to be maximized because along with this stronger instability, you also have, and we're going to go back to it, you also have a stronger low level jet located over these regions. And where that maximizes, that's where your highest tornado potential is going to be tomorrow. So you're going to have a 30 to 40 knot jet over these areas, which should be more than enough to get some rotating supercells in there, because supercells will develop tomorrow, and within those supercells, you can certainly get some rotating thunderstorms that can lead to tornadoes. Now, another thing, okay, so SRH. SRH is just it's something that we use, or a tool we use for forecasting tornado potential, and we're going through our Wednesday. I moved way too fast there. So this is Wednesday afternoon. Notice your strongest SRH is located in Kansas. Kansas is probably going to be a hot spot for potential tornadoes tomorrow, because it just seems like things are maximizing in that area. We click on the sounding within this area of stronger SRH, and notice you have a pretty favorable hodograph right there. Pretty curvature in there. This is quite the favorable hodograph for tornadoes. You got some changing with height in your wind barbs. So certainly you have a pretty big supercell parameter there. So this is a pretty favorable hodograph for tornadoes tomorrow in Kansas. You know, if we go a little bit further east towards a more of the instability area, where the instability is a little bit stronger, you can kind of see the hodograph is still pretty favorable for tornadoes, and you got a couple analogs down here supporting that. So again, if you're in Kansas, I definitely think that's a hot spot for tornadoes, especially eastern, maybe central Kansas, but even down in Oklahoma, there's certainly opportunity for tornadoes. Now, another thing I like to look at is a SIG tornado parameter, and this just gives me another idea of the chance of tornadoes. And notice Kansas is still the hot spot. Notice Kansas is the hot spot through the afternoon tomorrow. We're getting 21Z. You have a pretty big hot spot over here in Kansas. Now, this isn't off the charts. This isn't like a major mega tornado outbreak, but it does show us that there is a potential for a few tornadoes tomorrow, with that more enhanced corridor tornado potential being over Kansas, especially central to eastern Kansas being in the hot spot for tornado potential. Now, I want to move over to the NAM 3KM, because this is even lower, higher resolution model, and it gives us even a better idea of what we're looking at for our day tomorrow. And so we're getting towards that Wednesday time frame. You can kind of see how that the instability really rises into Oklahoma and Kansas. You can see though, there's a couple things to take note of. You can see our cold front located to the north, which looks to be more north to south oriented. But also look at our dry line like feature that's taking place over Oklahoma and Texas, where you have your dew points in the teens compared to over here you have dew points in the 60s and 70s. What's happening here is right along this dry line you could get supercells, but even up here and on the cold front you could also get some supercells to develop. This is why Kansas, I think, is a more favored spot, just because you may have some issues down here with storm development, and that may be one of the limiting factors over here in Oklahoma and portions further south, where the better fortune is to your north towards Kansas, Missouri, and Iowa. That's where your better fortune is located. That's why I think Kansas is kind of in the hot spot this time with potential for tornadoes. Now, again, also here we have the low level jet, and we're going through time, and we're getting through tomorrow afternoon. And look at this. Your strongest level jet seems to be located over Kansas, especially eastern Kansas. This is where your strongest level jet is located, and it's in this environment where you could certainly get stronger tornado potential. If I circle this on your screen, this area right up in here where you have the better thermodynamics as well. This area up in here could certainly see some enhanced tornado potential, but even further south into central and eastern Oklahoma, you could certainly have two areas of a more concern of enhanced severe potential tomorrow. So definitely some things to look out for and to watch out for. Now, we're going through time, and I'll drop down and we'll show you the uh, instability off the NAM 3KM model, as it is a higher resolution model. So it looks at these things a little bit better than the lower resolution models. But you can see that stripe of instability, and notice you get that maximization of instability with that stronger wind shear. This is where that enhanced tornado potential will take place. You know, we'll click on the sounding within this area of stronger wind shear, and notice that favorable holograph showing that enhanced tornado potential, and that's quite a favorable holograph. So that is definitely certainly good enough for tornado potential. So again, models are generally showing a quite unfavorable environment. Wouldn't be surprised to see an enhanced risk at issue for parts of Kansas and maybe parts of Oklahoma. But I definitely think that Kansas is definitely going to be in a hot spot for this setup with everything that I'm seeing so far. Now, look at reflectivity. Now, you're probably wondering, what does this look like on radar? Here, I'm about to show you. So, and in fact, I can actually get a little closer for you guys. And let's start from north and we'll go south. So here in Kansas, here's what the radar looks like. And so this is obviously this morning. So we'll start to advance this simulation. So we go through. So we're starting off Wednesday morning, and we can already start to see some development of some smaller showers. Wednesday mornings, our front starts to approach. But notice, you hit 10 a.m. You already have some storm development in Kansas. So this some pretty strong forcing located up here in Kansas. And then it's getting to the afternoon and evening. This is when you're going to watch out for those supercells that want to develop, especially in eastern to central Kansas. Any of these cells could be rotating and could be having tornado potential. I count 1, 2, 3, three different cells that could have tornado potential tomorrow evening as you go into Kansas. And then it becomes more of a linear situation as it pushes into Missouri and parts of Iowa. But even then, as it's moving through Kansas, there could certainly be some tornado potential in any of these cells that develop. Now, we'll move further south with this towards Oklahoma for you guys down here. And as we do that, we're looking at over here in Oklahoma. And again, down here in Oklahoma, there's some questions regarding how much storm initiation do we get along that dry line, because what we have in Oklahoma is what we call a cap. And you probably hear this a lot during tornado season, severe weather season. And basically what this is, it's like a layer of dry air located in the upper levels of the atmosphere that doesn't allow thunderstorms to build robust updrafts to really develop any storms. Now, there's different model discrepancies, but the NAM definitely develops supercells down in Oklahoma. If that happens, you have even more enhanced tornado potential down there in those areas as well. That's why I say I wouldn't be surprised to see an enhanced risk issue for somewhere in between Kansas and Oklahoma for enhanced tornado potential. Certainly wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility. But notice as this becomes pretty linear as it moves further south to parts of Texas and Arkansas and Missouri. And just so that you guys can see that I'm moving over there. I'm moving further east for you guys up here in Missouri, Arkansas. Further up here in Missouri, you guys definitely could see a pretty big wind bag for your areas along this line of thunderstorms that will move through your area between the time frame of about, let's say, 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. You guys should have a pretty big line of thunderstorms moving your way. Again, tornado potential certainly there. There's a 2% risk for tornadoes in parts of Missouri and Iowa, so you definitely want to keep an eye on that. But generally speaking, as this thing pushes further east, things will become a lot more linear and more of a wind damaging event compared to tornadoes. So that's why that 15% risk of stronger winds is located for you guys over here in Missouri. Now, there's some models that have a much less bigger event, like the HRRR model. And I'll go ahead and show you guys this. HRRR model shows a little bit less storm coverage because it has a stronger cap, especially for areas further south where you have less forcing. So we'll go through this pretty quickly, and we're starting off Wednesday afternoon, evening. Notice pretty big line of thunderstorms that develops into Kansas. That's why I say Kansas. You're probably going to be in the hot spot, particularly areas of eastern Kansas. This corridor right here. I wouldn't be surprised to see an enhanced risk issue. Maybe that extends to Oklahoma with more enhanced tornado potential, but certainly for Kansas, I could see that. And so as we move into our cannot get this off the screen. So as we move into our Wednesday evening, notice how things become pretty linear, and we get a much more damaging wind event compared to tornadoes. So if I had to circle an area with higher tornado potential, it would certainly be from eastern Kansas to central Kansas and to parts of Oklahoma. But with pretty big damaging wind event that may take place over Missouri and parts of Arkansas. But as our sun goes down, as nighttime hits, these storms will weaken fairly quickly, and we should get more of a line of thunderstorms, weakening storms with potential for some severe winds. But generally speaking, as this pushes further east, things will certainly weaken fairly quickly. So that's the overall setup that we have. Pretty big setup. Wouldn't be surprised to see an enhanced risk issue level 3 out of 5 for enhanced tornado potential, particularly from areas right here to maybe right here. I could definitely see enhanced tornado potential, and even right on that border of Kansas and Oklahoma. So again, I could see some enhanced tornado potential, probably enhanced risk located somewhere up in here. But that's the general area that I'm thinking right now. It's for the more enhanced tornado potential. But again, if you're anywhere in this yellow or green, watch out. There's a pretty large 2% risk of tornadoes, so that'll certainly be something to watch out for. We go back to that, and here's your 5% risk, and generally in the area that I just circled. But I wouldn't be surprised to see a 10% risk issue for tornadoes at some point. With the environment that I'm seeing, pretty favorable environment, favorable hodographs, favorable low level moisture, instability, wind shear should all allow for a pretty big event tomorrow. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a level 3. But that's all I really got, guys. I wanted to show you just the more extreme solutions, and then I showed you more weaker solutions. But generally speaking, models are in pretty good agreement that storms will initiate in Oklahoma. But there's still some questions regarding how long do these supercells stay supercells? How many tornadoes do we see? Those are all the questions that we'll come to figure out at some point. But overall, guys, if you're in the central part of the country, be prepared for a pretty big severe weather event on your guys' doorstep tomorrow. Be on the lookout for tornadoes as far south as maybe Texas to as far north as Iowa, with more enhanced tornado potential located over Kansas and Oklahoma.